change that. And the spotlight as well. Welcome back to the Interfaith Center Summer 2023 Workshop Series. My name is Sophia Said. I'm the Executive Director of the Interfaith Center and your host for this class session. The Interfaith Center's mission is to reduce the fear and prejudice among the world's religions. We aim to change the attitudes and behavior of people by educating them about different faith traditions, by promoting interfaith dialogue, and providing relationship building skills. We also teach spiritual practices that invite participants to connect with the divine while also connecting them with people of different religions as companions on their spiritual journey. So this workshop series is a part of our interfaith and spiritual explorations, and today is the second class in the 8-week session. Our first class was an introduction to dreams. If you were not able to join us, I sent the recording link to you in the yesterday's reminder email. I will also put it in our chat box as soon as I finish this introduction. Today's class will be about layers of psyche, and I also hope that our teacher will talk about how to remember and record our dreams if she has time. So our teacher, Reverend Susan Sims Smith, Sandy, if you can spotlight her as well. She is a Jungian-oriented psychotherapist who has spent 25 years in private practice. For the past 20 years, Susan has been serving as an Episcopal priest. She is the founder of Arkansas House of Prayer and the Interfaith Center of Arkansas. She has founded Seedwork, which is a project to teach people how to listen to wisdom through their dreams. And dreams are one of her deepest way to connect to divine. Last time, I also shared Susan's website with you, where you can find lots of resources about dreams, and I will be putting that link in the chat box as well. If you were not here last time, please continue to visit Susan's website and using those dream resources. One quick thing before we start the class today, Susan is going to be staying back for 30 minutes after we finish our 1-hour recorded class session. In those 30 minutes, she will be doing an informal conversation about dreams and maybe more dream interpretation. So for those of you who would like to leave after 1-hour class, you are welcome to. And if any of you would like to stay back, we would continue the session for another 30 minutes. With that said, if you are, put your mics to mute because we are recording the class. And Susan, it's time for you to start. Thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to be with you all again. So I want to just do a little quick review. Last week, we talked about how dreams can help us. We talked about different types of dreams. We worked on a dream. We talked about how sometimes the beginning of a dream might narrow the focus of what the discussion of the dream is going to be about between the soul of the dreamer and the divine and the everyday self. And we talked about how sometimes the ending of a dream is where the soul would like to go if the soul can get free from its current entanglements. And then we also talked about briefly, and we'll talk about this more, using association as a technique, associating to an image as a technique to understand some of what dreams might mean. And we talked about the conscious and the unconscious a little bit. We're going to talk about it more today. And I want to say one more thing about it. As I reflected on our work the last time, I want to make sure that I didn't leave you all with the mistaken impression that, okay, let's take the dream that Dee Davenport shared the last time. It was clear that she was getting some support. It became clear that she felt that she was getting some support in the direction of confirming that her retirement is getting near and that that's going to be okay. So what I want to point out is that when you have a dream like that and it's clearly giving support to the retirement idea, what you don't want to do is say, oh gosh, I had this dream supporting my retirement, Therefore, God is telling me to do that and to do that now. I think a better way to look at it is, here is a part of, we'll just use D for an example. Here's a part of D that's telling her that she's not ready to retire, and she has all these reasons of why not. Here comes the dream that is bringing up the opposite, that is clearly encouraging retirement. So the conscious mind in that dream, the everyday self was saying to her, not time to retire yet. The unconscious was coming in saying, maybe it is. And so think of a third entity, one voice inside saying, don't retire, you're not prepared financially and it's not time. And another voice internally saying, it might be time and it might be great. Think of a third entity in addition to the opposites, which we could call our conscious aware ego. And that conscious aware ego is hovering about, and it's separating, and it's listening to the voice that says, don't retire. And now it's listening to the wisdom from the dream that is also saying, yes, you're ready. And so the job is to sit with those opposites and let the aware ego, the conscious decision maker, hold that tension of opposites until a good decision can be made. So I want to reiterate again, having that dream, if it were my dream, I would not say to myself, okay, I just got my ticket, I'm going to go retire today. I would hold the tension of the opposites with both having support and continue to pray about it to make a decision. Okay, I want to talk briefly about how to remember a dream. So most of you already know this, but if we have some real newcomers, I just want to go over it. So what you might want to try is right before you go to bed, say a prayer and set your intent and say to your higher self and to your soul's journey and to the divine, I would be so grateful for a dream. So you set your intent. The second thing is you might have pencil and paper beside your bed. The next thing is write it down. And as you all know, dreams fade very, very quickly. So sometimes getting up in the middle of the night and turning on a light or going in another room if you don't want to disturb somebody and writing it down and then just going back to sleep, sometimes that's a good idea. Sometimes people don't want to do that. That's okay too. Even if you can only remember a fragment of a dream, that's enough. That will get you 1,000 miles. I have an old pair of Dolce & Gabbana gold lame tennis shoes that I bought on sale 20 years ago. So if I have a dream and the only thing I can see is gold lame Dolce & Gabbana tennis shoe, that's all I see in the dream. And maybe there's a whole story around it and characters and people and events, but I don't remember them. If I just remember that one image, that image is loaded with information. So if you only remember one image, it's something to work with. Write it down, even if it's a fragment. I think making sure you're getting enough vitamin B, especially B12, but a B complex, sometimes that bumps up people's dream recall, sometimes it doesn't. And the last thing, which I think is the most important, is once a person gets enough skills in understanding what the dreams might be telling them about daily life, the dream recall escalates. It's like either the divine or the soul or both say, okay, that channel of communication is open. We can talk to Jane that way. Let's get with it. Let's do it. So the dream recall goes up based on you being able to take the dream and allow it to help your daily life. So that's exciting. That's why we're together. So also, there was some thought in last week's discussion that dreams that are religious experiences, which do happen and are life-changing and are amazing, that they might be a higher priority than all these other dreams. Well, I see that a little differently in that the religious experience dreams are like really a gift, and they don't happen that often, and they're wonderful. And the daily dreams that are maybe more boring or more mundane or more violent or more ugly or more nasty or more confusing, those are really, really, really important dreams, because we are the human vessel for God's love to the world and for our spiritual development. And we all have broken places and wounded places and mean places and thoughtless places, and we have potential in us that we haven't realized, and we have gifts in us that we haven't realized. So there's a lot of our life that could be harmful for others, and our life that we have to develop to give others, that comes out in dreams. So dreams, if we're a vessel, dreams are an ongoing force that are bent on something to shape and create the very best vessel, not only for the divine, but for the joy of our own lives. And those dreams are stinkier and more humiliating and harder to figure out, but they're so worth it, because they shape and refine us and transform us. Okay, now we're going to shift. We're not going to shift. Now we're going to shift, and we're going to talk about layers of the psyche. So the unconscious is like a gigantic ocean, and there are many, many ways to get across the ocean. You can fly across it, you can go on a ship, you can sail across it, but we have to have some structure for trying to deal with these dreams from the unconscious. And I'm going to teach you some Jungian structure today. Many of you already know it, some don't. We're going to go over it, because you have to have some way to break it down. And I'm not saying the Jungian way is the only way or the best way or the one true apostolic way. It is a good way to look at dreams. So we're going to walk through a Jungian structure. So when I have also studied two more structures for looking at dreams through Connie Kaplan's teachings. And the name of her books are on my website. One is called The Invisible Garment, and one is called A Colorful Life. And also another way of looking at dreams is related to our interior selves. And a book about that with Hal Stone is on my website. So when I'm looking at one of my dreams, I'm using at least 4 lenses: many selves, A Colorful Life, which has to do with colors, and The Invisible Garment, which is something we'll talk about some other time. But you have to have some lenses to break this wobbly, wibbly thing of a dream down. So our focus for today is to make sure we're all on the same page to talk about the Jungian concept of dreams. Okay, so one part of consciousness is everything that we are aware of. So like this morning, this moment, you could be aware of what you're seeing on the screen. You could be aware of a table near you. You could be aware of a painting. You could be aware of how your clothes are feeling. You might have awareness coming in and out of things you're going to be doing later today. So everyday consciousness, things that are in our awareness, would be one level of the psyche. So in a minute, we're going to see a little 4-minute video with paintings about the levels of the psyche. In one of the paintings, and the person that is reading this, it has a pretty strong accent. So he calls the first level of consciousness the salon, like the living room, the sitting room. So that's the room in our psyche that we inhabit on a daily basis. It's our everyday conscious way of thinking about who we are and what our life is about. So Jung was a student of Freud, and he was Freud's most beloved student, and he was heir apparent to the whole Freudian movement, but they had a split. And the split came, as again, most of you know this, but the split came when Jung kept hearing people's dreams day after day in his office. He was working with people's dreams. And he kept hearing something other than your conscious mind and your unconscious. So he had a dream, and that dream formulated in his mind the theory of the personal unconscious, the personal consciousness, the salon, everyday consciousness, the personal unconscious, what's in the darkness, and the collective unconscious, which had not been formulated before. So that idea came to him probably from two places. He was hearing images from what became known as the collective unconscious. When people were bringing him these dreams, he was hearing these images, and they didn't fit the Freudian paradigm. So he was collecting data about a vibrational frequency that had not been articulated in the psychological sciences. And then the dream maker comes in and gives him this like way, way, way cool dream to formulate what he was already sensing but could not yet put into words. So I'm going to walk through them. Personal consciousness is what we're aware of. Our personal unconscious is stuff that we have known at one time, but maybe we have pushed it away. Like if there's a part of me that can be critical of others, which we all have that part, and if I don't want to think of myself as that way, then that gets pushed into my personal unconscious. It's something I have known about myself, but I don't want to know it, so I push it away. We also have parts of us that are blessings that we either don't develop or we're not that aware of. So let's say there's a part of me that's a good artist, but I haven't developed it. I haven't given it any time. So I push that energy away from me. So it's also in my personal unconscious, something I have known before, I have experienced, but I do not walk around thinking about it. So a lot of material in dreams is coming up from your personal unconscious. The next layer of the dreams, going down deeper, is what Jung called the collective unconscious, which is the idea that there are ancient images and ancient understandings that we share with all of humanity. Some religions call it the Akashic records. That means the place out in the universe and in us that has all information about everything. Jung calls it the collective unconscious. And there are images in people's dreams that they have not read about or learned about, or images that are used in ways that are not things that they have been taught. So I gave you an example of that last week. When I was a young priest, I had a dream that a woman was looking for a black onyx and she found it. And I told you that the night before I had that dream, I had the missal or the altar book for the Eucharist in the Episcopal Church. And I was practicing, when do you raise the cup? When do you break the bread? What do you say? Because it was also unfamiliar to me. And I practiced it enough until I could finally feel a connection with the divine, which is the purpose of doing the Eucharist. The priest is trying to make a connection with the divine and to bring that connection to the congregation. And I was so young and new at it and scared that I couldn't make that connection because I was too busy trying to figure out what to do right and wrong and not spill it and all this business. So that dream, a woman is looking for a black onyx, as I said last week, that's an archetypal image. What that means is I had never, until the day I had that dream, I had never read that black onyx can be a symbol for making a spiritual connection with the divine. So where did that image come from? I mean, I grew up in Marktree, Arkansas with 1,500 people at an adorable little podunk Methodist church where we sang corny hymns every Sunday night, and I loved it. And I will promise you that nobody taught me that black onyx was connected to the divine. I never heard that. And I'm having that dream. So when I had the dream, I'd had enough training in Jungian psychology to wonder, is it possible that that might be an archetype? So I pull out a dream book, a symbol book, and these symbol books are also on the website. This is one of my 3 favorites. It's by a guy named Ad DeVries. It's not a bargain, but it'll save you way more than this in therapy cost. And the name of it is Dictionary of Symbols and Imagery. So I pull out Ad DeVries. This is the one they use at the Jung Institute in Zurich. And I start reading in this or in Cooper, one of the books. And that's when I learned what black onyx is. So while we're on the subject of using symbol books, and you'll hear me say this again, the images are not fixed. So if I have a dream about black onyx and I go look and see what the dream book says, I cannot say to myself, black onyx always means this. And that is definitely what it has to mean in my dream. The unconscious is a loose, wild, fierce, loving force, and it is not going to be boxed in by anybody's symbol book. So you do not want to say to yourself, if you look it up on the internet and there are all these things that'll tell you an alligator always means this. Do not, whoever says that, you don't need them. What you say to yourself is, sometimes an alligator is used to mean this, and sometimes this, and sometimes this, and sometimes this. And then you say, do any of those images resonate with anything that's going on in my life? So when I read about black onyx, it said had several suggested meanings. And what resonated with me is a woman is looking for a connection with the divine, and she found it. And I knew that was related to me practicing the Eucharist. So I want to give another example of archetype. So a snake is an archetypal image. That means it's used in cultures all over the whole world. And it's used in so many ways that it is unbelievable. And it is also used in conflicting ways. Sometimes it can mean the feminine side of God, and sometimes it means the masculine side of God. Sometimes a snake can mean wisdom, especially feminine wisdom, and sometimes it can mean evil. And so if you have a dream with an archetypal image in it, as I said again, it's very tempting to want to go find a cookbook and you go look it up. And this lady says it means a widget, a digit, a bidget, therefore it means this. That's not going to take you as far. So what I want to do is I want to give you the tools to take you as far as you can go with the gift of your own dream. So let's say it's a snake, and let's say you buy a symbol book. As you go through and you see the 6 ways, and there are a lot more than 6, but let's say you see 6 ways that snake might be used in a dream. You don't buy any of them that don't resonate. So part of dream work is you get an aha, like, oh, maybe it does have to do with wisdom. Or you might get an aha moment, or you also might get a vibration in your body, consciousness or awareness in your body, where your body will go, that might be it. So all of this stuff is tentative by design, because you don't want too much certitude, like, well, she said a snake could be the feminine. I'm sure that's it. You want to approach it with the respect of wondering, it might be wisdom, might be evil, might be destructive. You want to approach it with an attitude of respect and wondering and curiosity. So one more archetypal image in dreams, and there are a lot of them. Well, another one is death. So if somebody is literally about to die, very rarely are they dreaming about death. It does happen. I've collected like a big thick file folder you're going to hear about later about dreams before people die that they have. And very rarely are they dreaming about death. Now it does happen, and so it could be. So again, none of this stuff is poured in cement. But often death means transformation, big change. It could be a part of you that's dying, or a way of life that's dying, or a belief system that's dying, or an attitude that's dying. So it might be a literal death. That's always possible, but it's usually about transformation and change. So I'm going to review the layers of the psyche again, then we're going to watch the Jung film, and then we're going to take time for question and answer, and then we'll work on a dream. So Jung called the salon in his dream the living room, the consciousness that we live in daily life. And then in the dream, you're going to see that he leaves everyday life and goes down deeper in the unconscious to the next level, which is his personal unconscious, things he has known and has experienced, but are not in his awareness at the moment. And then he goes and is shown a deeper level of the psyche where he goes underneath the basement. And in this dream, he's going to see under the basement that there's another room, and there's a big stone that has an iron handle on it, and he opens this other level, and he keeps going down into the collective unconscious, which we're going to say a place in each of us where we have access to understandings and images that were not taught to us in our culture or our family or our religious institutions. Okay, so Sophia or Sandy, if you'll play this clip, I'll be grateful for that.
Okay, about to play the clip. Sandy, you want to remove the spotlight, and Susan, you want to check two things for me: if you can see the video and if you can hear the video. And if
okay, we're not at the beginning. Well, let's see if that's the beginning of it. Yeah, I can see it.
After my association
Okay, let's stop right there, Sophia. Let's stop it. Okay, so it's going to be very difficult to understand what Jung is saying. I'm going to get Sophia to see if we can turn the volume up. But what he's saying right here is, after I did my association experiments, where he took all these people and had them associate to their images, that he began to wonder if there wasn't something more than what Freud had taught him. And he's going to say, then he had this dream. So it's hard to understand him because the audio is a little garbled and he has a very strong accent. Okay, let's see if we can get a little more volume. And we're only going to go for 4 minutes with this. So go ahead, Sophia.
we are at maximum volume, so let's see.
Can people turn up their own individual volume on their computer? Let's try that.
Yes, I would encourage all of you to make your volume to maximum. Okay.
So Sophia, you may just wait.
Go ahead. Yes.
You may already know where to stop it at the 4 minute thing. If you don't, I'll wait. You do know?
Yes, I do know.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
After my association experiments, when I realized that there is obviously an unconscious, the question was, now, what is this unconscious? Does it consist merely of rests, of remnants of conscious activities, or are there things that are practically forever unconscious? In other words, is the unconscious factor in itself? And I soon came to the conclusion that the unconscious must be a factor in itself. because I observe time and again that, for instance, beliefs or schizophrenic patients, delusions and fantasies, the motives which they couldn't possibly have acquired in our surroundings.
Jung and Freud were very different men with different approaches. Their split followed Jung's most original and controversial discovery, that of the collective unconscious, an idea which characteristically he deduced from a dream.
I was in a house I did not know. It was my house. In the upper story, there was a kind of salon furnished in Rococo style. I did not know what the lower floor looked like. There, everything was much older. This part of the house must date from the 15th or 16th century. The furnishings were medieval. The floors were of red brick. I went from one room to another, thinking, now I really must explore the whole house. I came upon a heavy door and opened it. The stone stairway led down into the cellar. Descending again, I found myself in a beautifully vaulted room, which looked exceedingly ancient. The walls dated from Roman times. The floor was of stone slabs, and in one of these I discovered a ring. The stone slab lifted, and I saw a staircase of narrow stone steps leading down. I descended and entered a low cave. In the dust were scattered bones and broken pottery, like remains of a primitive culture. I discovered 2 human skulls, obviously very old, and half disintegrated. Then I woke. It was plain to me that the house represented a kind of image of the psyche. Consciousness was represented by the salon. It had an inhabited atmosphere. The ground floor stood for the first level of the unconscious. The deeper I went, the more alien and the darker the scene became. The Roman cellar and the prehistoric cave, these signified past times and past stages of consciousness. My dream obviously pointed to the foundations of cultural history, a history of successive layers of consciousness. My dream thus constituted a kind of structural diagram of the human psyche. It was my first inkling of a collective beneath the personal psyche.
To Jung's followers, his discovery of a collective unconscious is critical. It represents a deep and timeless fund of human instincts and images in the psyche, which Jung called archetypes.
Susan, are we at the right place or do you need?
This is great.
Okay. I'm going to stop share. Okay, you're back on, Susan.
So now let's take a few minutes for just question, feedback, response, comments, whatever anybody would like to say.
So you can raise your hand by going to reactions. And I will let Susan know. Dan has a question and David Hawkins has a question. So let's start with Dan, then we can go to David.
Susan, do you have a sense that the collective unconscious is instinctual, perhaps physical, part of the lower self, or is it a spiritual intimation that's a part of the higher self or the soul? Any thoughts about that?
That's an interesting question, Dan. I've never really thought about, is it our higher self or our instinctual nature, or well, I know it has instinctual images in it. And I know it has very spiritual images in it also. So I tend to just think of it as a universal reservoir of consciousness that we share with all of humanity, so that certain visual images and certain patterns, like the visual pattern of a mandala, or the image of water, or the image of a fountain, or the image of a wounded person with a cut on their thigh, that certain images communicate to people all over the globe certain pieces of information. And I don't know, I don't think of it as being separated between our higher consciousness and our more instinctual. I wonder if there's some of both of that in the collective, but in ways that we are new to. Did I answer your question okay?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. So David?
Hello, thank you. I appreciated all that you've shared. A question that comes to mind is, let's say that we're doing dream work, and by chance we do come across an archetypal image or theme that, and maybe we go and look at the cookbook or not, but and let's say we do or don't, but it signifies some meaning to us, or it insinuates a meaning to us. What then shall we do with it? How do we use that?
Well, there are a couple of ways to think about it. Like, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, the dreams are talking to us about what was going on with the soul of the person the 2 or 3 days before the dream. So let's say you have a dream and you get some meaning out of it, something that's meaningful to you. Then what you say to yourself is, why would the divine in my soul want me to know that? What is important in my daily life? Why would I need to know that? It's important enough that a dream is spending its energy to bring the meaning, to bring the message. So then you ask, if I understood that more deeply, or I accepted it, or I took action on it, how might life be richer or more centered or more calm or more healed? So sometimes we might have a dream about something we already know. Now that's really confusing. You have a dream about something about your personality or your service, and you're like, well, I already know that. Like, why am I being told that? If you already know that about yourself and you're being told it, then one would have to wonder, are you taking enough action on that consciousness? So I might know something about myself, but not really be living it and acting on it in a wise way. So when you say you find the meaning, then the next thing you say is, how do I have my thinking and my actions and my heart line up with that meaning? Is there any action that I need to take about the dream? Maybe there's action, maybe there's not action. Maybe it's a change in thought, or maybe you don't even have to change your thoughts. Maybe you are already thinking about it in a wise way. Maybe you're already taking action on it in a wise way. And maybe it's just to validate, like, you're on the right track. So if you have meaning, I would wonder, do I need to change my thinking? Do I need to change my actions? Or do I need to be validated that I'm on the right path? So that's a really good question. Like, we get some meaning, then what are we supposed to do?
That's very helpful. That's basically cognitive behavior therapy, but you get inspired by the image. And
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And kind of convicted by the image. You know, it's a powerful experience to have a dream image convict you of something that your deepest self is pulling you toward. So if in cognitive behavioral therapy, if somebody says to me, I wish that you would look at this cognitive distortion and consider changing this way of thinking, that's very helpful, because when you do that, your life gets better. Having that guidance come through a dream image, in addition to the cognitive behavioral therapy, you put those two together, and I mean, you're cooking, you're motivated. So thank you. Other questions or comments or thoughts? Why don't we take the lady's dream that says that she would like to do it. So let me tell you before we listen to the dream, if I feel like I can do any good with the dream in the short period of time that we have, we will definitely do it. And if not, we're going to have to keep, you're welcome to stay on later, and we'll have to keep listening. So I have to, have to choose something that I think we can work with in the time frame. So please go ahead, Jane, and share your dream. And I'm glad you brought a dream.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. I titled the dream Down in the Sky, Uprooted Tree Dream.
Now say it again, what in the sky?
Upside down in the sky,
Okay.
comma, uprooted tree dream. I had this dream back in October of last year. I'm outside a house similar to childhood, but it's not that actual house. I'm watching a very big tree, maybe like an oak, who has ivy growing on it and away from it. It appears the tree is rustling the ivy and actually off the ground and pulls it toward it. Then the tree lifts up its roots and goes airborne in the sky and flips upside down. I follow it past other trees so I can see it with instructions. I run in the house, grab my phone, and take pictures. I then run to tell my mom and show her the pictures. The pictures are now in a document or a magazine, and I'm trying to find them to show her. And I don't think I'm able to do that. But I'm trying, she does see the real life evidence of the ivy having been pulled up. And that was the end of my dream.
I love it. Okay. Now you cut out just a few times because of our connection. Don't worry about it. But let's go back through it because I want to make sure I know I missed just a few words. Okay. So let me hear it again. And watch me, if I miss a word, let's stop and go back. So just start all over. So a lot of times if somebody's telling me a dream and I'm trying to help them figure out what it is, I will want to hear it 2 or 3 times before we even start working on it. So part of it, I want to make sure I'm not missing any words. And I also want us to kind of marinate in the dream and bring the energy of the dream into the room. And I'm also saying to myself, I have absolutely no idea what this dream means. So, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And it feels very important. It feels like a very important dream, but we're going to know what it means after she works with her images. Okay. So let's hear it again.
Okay. I'm outside a house similar to my childhood house, but it's not that actual house. I'm watching a very big tree, maybe an oak, who has ivy growing on it and away from it. It appears the tree is rustling the ivy and actually moves it off the ground.
Wait, I lost a word in there.
Okay.
It appears that the tree is rustling what?
The ivy,
What does that mean, rustling the ivy?
like moving it.
Okay.
Uh, and actually, and the next sentence is and actually moves it. So it's the ivy is being disturbed, I guess, and then the tree actually moves it off the ground and pulls it toward it.
So the tree starts moving and the ivy's growing on it, and the movement of the tree causes the ivy to be disturbed. It can't climb and attach to it like it was. And then the next thing that happens is what?
Oh, no. The ivy is part of the tree. The ivy already lives and grows on the tree, but the ivy goes, it goes down the tree and on the ground. And so that when the tree, the tree, whatever the tree, its energy is causing the ivy to, and the ivy is being pulled toward the tree, off the ground.
Okay, now I got it. Okay.
Okay.
So the roots of the ivy that were in the ground are being pulled up. Those roots, the ivy's being uprooted from where it was on the earth. And, and that's happening at the initiation of the tree. Okay, keep going.
Right. Then the tree lifts up its own roots, and I didn't write this down, but it moves also down, it moves on down a ways, and then it lifts up, and then it goes airborne in the sky and flips upside down. Yeah. And I follow it because I guess I was right in front of it, and I follow it because it's moved. So I follow it past the other trees that were near it, so I can see it without obstructions. Then I run inside the house and I phone and I take several.
All right. The rest of the dream I remember. I have it stored in my brain, and we didn't have any cutoffs. So if we had an hour, I would want to hear it again. But I remember I've got the rest of the dream stored. So let's start to work on it. Okay. So this is what I do. If I'm trying to help somebody figure out a dream, the first thing I do is I wonder, what do they already think it might be? Because they've been thinking about this dream, and people have a lot of great ideas before anybody else helps them. So Jane, what thoughts come to your mind before we start to work on it of what it might be about? Now it's frozen.
Jane has an unstable Wi-Fi connection and she is frozen.
Sophie, is there anything we can do to help this? Just wait a minute.
Yeah, I think she is kicked out of the meeting. Yeah, we just need to wait on her, or
so while we're waiting, let me tell you what's going on in my brain. And you all have stuff going on in your brain. So I'm making a mental list of things I'm curious about. So the setting of the dream is often very important. Now, what is the setting of this dream? She's near her childhood home. So we don't know for sure, but we have lots and lots of dreams about transforming our upbringing and our childhood home, or not even our literal upbringing, but the place in our brain that stores the rules and the values and the beliefs and the feelings, plus and minuses about how we think in the way that our childhood home thought. So that might not have anything to do with this woman's dream. I don't know. We'll find out. Well, I mean, if she can't come back on today.
Hello.
Okay, so let's go back.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
Do not worry about it. Okay.
Okay.
So what are some of your thoughts, Jane, about what the dream might be about?
Oh, so I don't know what happened a few days before, like you were suggesting, but I had I had just been diagnosed with long haul COVID because I'd had COVID back in June. And I had recently had to quit my job because I could no longer work. I was so debilitated at the time.
Wow.
So I don't know what it was exactly about. I think of trees as growth. But I know that I was really struggling with, I guess, maybe self-worth and value, because I didn't know what was happening to me, and I didn't know if I would be recovering.
Wow.
Those are kind of some of the themes, I mean, that I was dealing with in everyday life at the time. And I okay, I was also not feeling very supported in my situation. Like a lot of people didn't understand what was going on. And even the doctors, I did go and see different doctors, and they definitely, diagnosed me with these problems, but they didn't really know how to help me or what to do with me either.
So we're going to do more with the dream, but even if we didn't do anything more, two huge things have happened. The dreamer has told the dream. When you write down a dream or you remember it, you tell it, you are already changed. She's already better that she remembered that dream. And by better, I mean more whole, healthier, more centered. Then the second thing is she's told us what she thinks it might be about. She's already better just doing that. So if a friend shares a dream with you and you don't feel like you have the skill to help them take it any further, you've already helped them a lot by encouraging the memory of the dream and encouraging them to reflect on what they think it means. And it's a sacred thing that somebody shared that with you. Okay, so Jane, we'll just mess with it a little bit, okay? So in the very beginning of the dream, the tree is near your childhood home. And I would like you to do some associations to your childhood home. And you do not have to do it out loud. And some of this work, if something comes into your mind that you don't want to share with 50 or 60 or 70 people, that is totally fine. We're not doing this for the group. We're doing it for you. So why don't you do associations to your childhood home? And for all of us, our childhood home has pluses and minuses. So the way you do associations is you circumambulate an image. You imagine the pluses and minuses of your childhood home, and you go around that a few times as if you were walking around it and associating to it what comes to mind. And if you want to say it out loud, do it. If you don't want to, that's okay. We can still move forward with the dream work.
And I already know this, I guess, having been a psychotherapist myself, so I've done a lot of work on some of this stuff. But I would say with the childhood home, there's been a lot of gaps and missing pieces in my life that I feel like I want to go back and fix. I don't know that I can, but I feel like I have potential that's untapped that I never got a chance to really, get the support I needed to move forward in different things.
It's so amazing that you have that dream. So you're suffering with long-term COVID at the time of the dream. The physicians, nurses, possibly friends, possibly family, nobody really knows what to do with long-term COVID, so they don't know what to do with you. And you are feeling unsupported by the very people in daily life at that very time that you had the dream. You are feeling unsupported by the people where the support needs to come. I mean, we want the physicians to know what to do about long-term COVID, and the nurses and the pharmacists and friends and family and co-workers. We want everybody to know what it is, to accept it, to not shame the person, and to know how to help them move forward. And the culture's not far enough along to know what the heck to do with it. But what does the unconscious do? It says, Jane, it's a little bit like being near your childhood home. And although there were positive things about the childhood home, there were just some darn gaps where you just didn't feel the support that you needed. So it's referencing that as a location in the psyche. And it may be that in 6 months you have a dream that you're near your childhood home, and it's referencing all the positive things that were in your childhood home. So it's not a canned image. It's not always going to be, I dream I'm near my childhood home and I'm not being supported. You could have another dream later where it's the good stuff that was there. But in this dream, it's not being supported. Now let's play with this fabulous image of this massive tree. And what comes to mind when you associate to this huge tree and the vines, and the tree itself is initiating movement?
Oh, well, and I'm one of those who has done a lot of dream analysis myself for the last 10 years, but did a lot going online and looking at dream symbols. So I kind of have my own ideas of how I see trees.
Okay.
And I would say that but there's layers here, of course. On the surface level, I think of a tree as well, the roots being related to your family, rooted in your family history. And so it disturbed me a little bit that the tree was bringing up the roots. That kind of bothered me. But when it shot up in the sky, I was just like, whoa, what is going on? This is like, something is here. And then when it turned upside down, I was even more blown away, because who sees a tree upside down in the sky? So there was kind of this feeling of, I don't know, kind of, well, I know I was a little scared. I was a little scared that the tree was uprooting itself. It was almost like it was taking itself away from its roots, so to speak, and going its own way. I didn't know if that was healthy or not. I know I started judging the dream. I didn't mean to do that. But it was important. Something was powerful about it. And I felt like I had to record it. I felt like I had to have that somehow validated. And it brought it, I was trying to bring my mom's attention to it. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know all of what that means. That's why I'm bringing it to you.
We're close enough to the end of our time that I want to give you a couple of questions to think about. And I don't know the answer to this. So it requires more work. So one way to wonder about the dream is the tree is initiating its own movement. And as a child living in a house where we're not feeling supported, we cannot initiate our own movement and get the heck out of there. We're just there for a while. But this tree is initiating its own movement out of an old paradigm and an old way of thinking. It is not stuck. It's initiating its own movement, and it takes the vine with it, and it starts moving, and then it's so free from an old paradigm that it turns itself upside down. And then it wants to really record it, take a picture of it, and show it to the mother, not only the biological mother, but more importantly, to the divine mother, and equally importantly, to your interior mother that mothers you. So one way to look at it is the tree is getting free from the place in the psyche where there's not support. That's one possible way to look at it. And that would be something to wonder about. That will also be scary to the inner child, because the inner child wants everything rooted and the same, even if it's dysfunctional and there's no support. The child does not want trees going upside down in the air. That does not make the child happy. So being scared in a dream, we have to wonder, should I be afraid of this? Is this something destructive toward me? Do I need my child to be afraid? I'm registering that. Or it's new life, and the little vulnerable child is never going to sign up for a big dose of change. No. So it could be this healthy change. It could also be something where there was some non-safety going on. and you can go back and ask what might have been unsafe, what movement might have been started that did not feel safe and did not feel good. And those are questions to ponder. Is that okay with you if we leave it like that for now?
That is fine. And that all resonated with me.
And it could be some of both. It
I
could
think
be,
it is actually.
it could be some freedom of movement, of not thinking the non-supported way and not criticizing yourself, and that the little kid might be afraid about it. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. We thank you, Jane. We're going to stop. And anybody that needs to leave, sayonara, and anybody that wants to stay and work another dream, you're happy to do it. You're welcome to do it.
Thank you, Susan, for today. And I think we want to close the class firstly by thanking our teacher, Susan, for such a rich and deep teaching on dreams. And after that, thank you all of you for joining us. Many of you asked how to get the recordings for these classes. So yesterday, which was Tuesday, around 5-ish p.m., I send you a class reminder along with the recording link for last week's class. And every Tuesday, we will be sending you a class reminder and the recording link for that week's class. Also, if you look at the chat box, you will find the link to Susan's website, to our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will get all the recordings and the recording of last week's class. Having said that, keep dreaming, keep looking for guidance in your dreams, keep looking for meaning in your dreams. We would be closing the class now, but those of you who want to stay back, please give us a minute and we will be meeting with the teacher and doing Q&A session with her. Peace, salam, and shalom.